Hello. Welcome on back to my channel. I'm very excited for today's video because I have partnered up with One Size Beauty to present you all with this supermodel glam look that I created on our beautiful model. So a huge thank you to One Size for sponsoring this video and to you guys for watching it. With that said, if you want to learn how I created this look right here, then keep on watching. So to begin, I'm using the Rose Deep Hydration Oil Infused Serum from Fresh Beauty to prep our model's skin. I'm applying this on with the beauty blender I'll be using throughout the complete makeup application. You've heard me talk about it before here, but I like applying skincare on with the same beauty blender I use for foundation and concealer because it just helps unify everything and really contributes to getting a flawless blend between all of the products used. And I'm being sure to bring this down the neck and décolletage as well. Next up, for foundation, I'm using the Luminous foundation from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and to find the right shade for our model, Aussie, I'm first applying a small amount of this to her collarbones, blending it out, and it's this way I'm able to tell if it's the right shade for her or not. In this case, I got lucky with the first try. The shade 550W is the perfect shade for her. It's going to match her face to the deep, warm undertones of the rest of her body. It's so important that when we're selecting the foundation shade that we're not just color matching to our face or our client's face, because 99% of the time, unless you're just one of those lucky chosen ones, our face is not a perfect match to our chest and our shoulders and hands. So it's just one of those things that we got to keep in mind. Once we have the foundation applied, it's time to brighten and highlight the face. To do so, I'm using the Huda Beauty Overachiever Concealer in the shade Peanut Butter, and I'm beginning this application directly underneath the eyes, applying it with a concealer brush before also applying it to other areas of the face I want to highlight, such as the center of the forehead, chin, and down the center of the nose. Again, this is that supermodel glam, or at least my interpretation of it. I get that it's very subjective from person to person, but when I personally think of supermodel glam, the first person that comes to my mind is Naomi. Back in the day when the legendary Kevin Aquan used to paint her face, the contour, the highlight, the powders, the glam of it all. So Naomi is definitely my inspiration behind today's look. And while back in the 90s, she used to go for an extremely bright under eye highlight, I'm going to keep the brightness a little more subtle today because I do want this to be wearable for those of you watching who want to give it a try on yourselves. And today, I think maybe for the first time on my channel, I'm not going to contour with creams. I know a lot of you have shared with me that you're a little intimidated by cream contouring, or you just haven't gotten the hang of it yet. So I want to switch it up for you today by showing you another technique I use, which I'll show you here in just a minute after I finish up this step. All right, so now that we have that all blended out, it's time to move on to the star of the show today. I'm talking about the One Size Ultimate Setting and Baking Puff, and I'm taking it along with the One Size Ultimate Blurring Setting Powder, which opens like this. And what I like to do is pour it into the palm of my hand, dip the puff into it, and then press it onto the skin. This powder comes in two shades. There's the translucent shade, and then there's the dark deep shade, which is the one I'm using to lightly set the face before I begin the baking. So if you remember, I used this powder for the first time in the video I uploaded last week, and I was saying how much I enjoyed the powder and the blurring effects of it on the skin. Anyways, the brand reached out and they said, hey, we see you using our products all the time, and if you really do enjoy using this powder, let's partner up and create a video really showcasing it. And I'll tell you what I thought was really cool about this was that Patrick Starr's One Size team were like, hey, Spence, you can be 100% real about your thoughts on the product. There are no hard feelings. We just want you to do you. And of course, I was like, all right, let's rock and roll. Let's do this. And the reason I chose to demonstrate the dark, deep shade in today's video is because I love the fact that they came out with this shade in the launch. It wasn't just the one universal translucent shade. To be honest, there have been so many times I've used setting powders from different brands that claim their setting powder is universal and it works on all tones because it's quote unquote translucent. Yeah, well, baloney. I've yet to use one translucent universal setting powder that works on both fair skin tones and deep skin tones. On dark to deep skin tones, it always turns out looking ashy or gray. You know what I'm saying? And it's not flattering. So anyways, I say all that to say that I really admire One Size for keeping in mind all of their customers, whether they're fair or deep or anything in between. Back to the application, as you've seen, I've begun the baking process using the same powder. I'm placing it in all areas of the face where we had applied the concealer earlier, so underneath the eyes, the center of the forehead, and I've even applied it to the jawline, underneath the cheekbone, to really sharpen the contour of our model's cheekbone and to complement the beautiful strength of her jawline. Now here, I'm using the same powder to set the eyelids. We already applied a tad bit of concealer there earlier, so I'm making sure that creasing hasn't occurred before setting it with the powder, and if it has, I'll blend it out with my finger first. To bronze, I'm using this Fenty bronzer in the shade Mocha Mami to reinforce the contours of her face and also to dust off the baking powder that I let sit there for a few minutes. So remember earlier I was saying that I wasn't going to cream contour and instead I was going to use another technique. Well, this has been it. By concealing and baking the areas of the face that we want to brighten, it's created more of a contrast from the areas we left alone, the contours, therefore creating dimension. Basically, it's reverse contouring. Today, I wanted to film with my studio lights dimmed down a bit so you can really see the texture of our model's skin and we can both see how the One Size powder is working. So when we started, you could see our model had a few blemishes and a little texture here and there, which is perfectly normal. We're human, it happens. And there's really no makeup in the world that will completely diminish texture, but if you rewind this video and compare the texture of her skin from before and how it is now, I think you'll see what I'm talking about when I say this powder does have that blurring property to it that I love. And even after baking, the skin doesn't look cakey. You still see the natural shine and glow come through, especially on her forehead. I love that. Okay, moving on, I'm mixing these two shades in the Norvina Volume 1 eyeshadow palette to use as blush. To be specific, their shade names are A5 and E4. And when mixed together, they create this beautiful, electric, pinkish coral. That's a lot of ways to describe this. But anyways, just take my word for it. It creates this really beautiful blush that looks especially beautiful on deeper skin tones. For brows, I'm using the Brow Wiz in the shade Ebony to start shaping her brows into the shape and density I'm looking for. Back to my inspiration, Naomi, she's always had beautifully shaped brows, structured, but not overly full. Especially during the 90s, thinner brows were in. So I'm gonna fully embrace our model's thinner brow today, just lengthen it a bit and build up the pigment of this brow pencil to make the brow more dense. Then, heading back to the concealer brush and concealer we had used earlier, I'm cleaning up the bottom of the brow before taking a clean blending brush to diffuse it. The brightness of this concealer will really make the brow bone pop, which I feel was also a vibe back in those Supermodel days. Next, I'm taking the Point Made Gel Eyeliner Pencil, also by One Size, in the shade Bodacious Black to coat the eyelid with. This is going to act as the base for the eyeshadow that I'll be putting on top of it in a minute. Not only will doing this create a sticky base for shadows to grip onto, therefore less fallout, but it will also help deepen the eyeshadow pigments, preventing them from looking washed out. Like, you know how sometimes you apply on eyeshadow and it can look really great at the moment, but then you see it in flash photography and it looks washed out? Yeah, that won't happen if you use this method. You apply on a pencil and then take a clean blending brush to diffuse the edges. Now, if I were planning to put a bright yellow or red or pink eyeshadow on and I wanted them to retain that brightness and saturation, I wouldn't use a black pencil underneath it because a true yellow would turn into a deep mustard yellow, and a red would turn into a burgundy. But in this case, the eyeshadow I'll be putting on top of it is a color that I want to remain dark. I'm also placing this in the waterline and diffusing it outwards with a detail blending brush. Alright, I'm taking this shade called Axis from the Subculture eyeshadow palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills and packing it on top of the lid using a stippling motion. This is the only eyeshadow we'll be using today. I'm keeping it super simple and easy to achieve. All you need is a good black gel eye pencil like the one we used and an eyeshadow of your choice. I chose this shadow because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, this teal blue is not a common color you see on the eyelid. I didn't want to play it safe using a standard black eyeshadow or a neutral brown. I wanted to make the color story here interesting. At first it looks like a black, but once you take a second look at it, you realize it's a navy or a teal. Anyways, I think it's really beautiful. And also the dress Aussie is wearing for the outro shots has some deep blues in it, so I felt the shadow would just tie everything together. As you see, once I have the shadow placed, it's all about blending out the edges. And if you notice, there is absolutely no fallout, and that's all because the shadow is gripping onto the gel pencil we laid down first. Next up, I'm using the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara to coat the lashes after I applied the Ardell Wispies off camera. And in case you didn't notice, I messed up big time. I did. I'm so sorry, you guys. I didn't realize the camera had automatically stopped recording when I was doing the lips, but on the bright side, I've done this nude lip a dozen of times in the past videos on my channel that you can refer to. And I'll be sure to link below the products I used. It's the Chestnut lip liner, Peachstock lipstick, and the lip gloss, all from MAC Cosmetics. And lastly, with the Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray, I'm misting this onto the face to assure that the makeup is set and locked into place. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I achieved a supermodel makeup look on our naturally beautiful model. And there we have it, kids. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out more of my work on my Instagram at Paintedbyspencer. And until next time, I'll see you soon.